I'm so sorry to distract you, but I tried very hard to create this video. Watch it all the end and enjoy.
I spread my massive dark wings over the cold city. The heavy wind pushed against my thick lion fur. This mercenary contract pays a very high premium. My armored mechanical tail dragged on the concrete. Sparks flew from the sharp steel scorpion stinger. The target group of heroes stood in the square below. I dropped down from the tall building very quickly. The stone pavement cracked under my immense weight. Their glowing magical shields looked extremely weak. System analysis shows 5 high-level targets here. The lead hero raised his bright, heavy silver sword. A strong wave of heat radiated from his shiny armor. He clearly believed his mythic rank made him safe. I swung my mechanical tail forward with brutal force. The sharp metal tip pierced his thick energy shield. My special venom began to flow into his data stream. Critical system error injected into the host body. The bright blue light faded from his magical weapon. The heavy sword slipped from his sudden weak grasp. His digital stats crashed down to the absolute zero. I pulled my heavy tail back from his broken shield. The proud warrior collapsed onto the hard, cold ground. He was now just a basic peasant without any real power. Target level reset to the lowest possible base state. The 4 remaining heroes stared at their fallen leader. Panic spread through their tight combat formation fast. They did not understand the nature of my unique virus. A female mage started casting a bright fire spell now. The air temperature rose rapidly around her moving hands. I needed to shut down her magic before the final cast. My massive lion paws launched my heavy body forward. The sudden kinetic impact threw her against a stone car. Her spell fizzled out into harmless tiny orange sparks. I whipped my armored tail into her side very quickly. The mechanical stinger delivered the digital poison fast, magic core corrupted by an unknown external protocol. Her glowing magical aura vanished into the dark night. She dropped to her knees in pure physical exhaustion. 2 of the strongest targets were now completely useless. The third hero carried a massive heavy steel warhammer. He charged at me with a loud, aggressive battle shout. The heavy hammer swung toward my thick armored skull. I simply stepped aside and let his momentum carry him. The massive weapon smashed into the solid concrete road. Debris flew everywhere from the sheer force of the blow. My tail struck his exposed back with brutal precision. The virus immediately infected his central nervous system. Physical strength stats reduced to the lowest minimum. The large man could no longer lift his own heavy weapon. He fell forward onto the broken pieces of the dark road. His expensive armor suddenly felt incredibly heavy now. I turned my attention to the last 2 standing targets. They slowly backed away toward the narrow street alley. My mercenary contract demanded a complete team wipeout. I spread my large bat wings to block their escape path. The wind from my wings pushed them back into the square. They were trapped here with a fully lethal mythic beast. An archer pulled back the string of his glowing energy bow. 3 bright arrows shot toward my chest at high speed. I crossed my thick armored forearms to block the strike. The kinetic force pushed me back just a few short inches. My thick skin easily absorbed the weak physical impact. I lunged forward before he could load another fast shot. My heavy tail lashed out and struck his right shoulder. The digital venom surged through his vital energy veins. Agility and perception stats deleted from the system. The glowing bow dissolved into empty thin air instantly. The archer stumbled and fell hard against a brick wall. He could not even balance on his own 2 feet anymore. Only one single hero remained standing in the dark plaza. This was the famous holy paladin of the Central Kingdom. His golden armor radiated a bright protective yellow light. He held a large shield covered in ancient defensive runes. My client paid extra for the total destruction of this man. I let out a low mechanical growl from my deep throat. The sound vibrated through the cracked stone pavement. The paladin braced himself for my incoming heavy assault. I charged directly at his thick golden defensive shield. My massive weight slammed into the solid metal barrier. A loud shockwave echoed across the empty, silent city. The paladin held his ground with extreme physical effort. He did not realize my frontal attack was just a simple trap. My long mechanical tail curved right over my wide back. The stinger bypassed his shield and hit his exposed neck. I injected the maximum dose of my system glitch virus. Absolute system failure detected in the primary target. The golden light instantly vanished from his heavy armor. The ancient runes on his shield turned dark and lifeless. His legendary status broke apart into useless raw data. The heavy shield crashed down onto his heavy metal boots. He fell to his knees with a loud metallic clanking sound. The great hero was now weaker than a common farm worker. My job here was officially completed with perfect success. I slowly walked through the scattered group of broken men. None of them had the strength to even lift their own heads. The cold night wind blew across the silent, ruined square. I tapped my mechanical tail against the hard stone floor. The sharp metallic sound made the fallen leader flinch. He finally understood the true reality of his situation. Target group completely disconnected from the main grid. A sudden loud alarm echoed from the distant watchtower. Bright searchlights swept across the dark, empty streets. The local city guard was responding to the massive noise. I needed to secure my extraction point before they arrived. My heavy paws crushed the discarded weapons on the ground. The sound of breaking steel filled the quiet atmosphere. I leaped onto the roof of a nearby abandoned brick building. The old structure groaned under my massive physical weight. I watched the street below with cold, calculating precision. Several armored vehicles rolled into the ruined city square. Heavily armed soldiers jumped out with their weapons ready. They quickly surrounded the fallen bodies of the five heroes. A commander with a glowing red visor stepped forward now. He scanned the broken men with his advanced optical gear. I could see the exact moment his digital scanner failed him. Scanning error reported due to missing target level data. The soldiers looked confused by the completely zeroed stats. They aimed their heavy plasma rifles at the dark shadows. I remained perfectly still on the high concrete rooftop. My dark fur blended seamlessly into the deep night cover. The commander ordered his men to secure the entire perimeter. This was a perfect opportunity to test my virus spread rate. I deployed a secondary function of my mechanical tail tip. A small cloud of toxic digital nanobots released into air. The invisible swarm drifted down toward the armed soldiers. Area of effect, viral transmission protocol fully engaged. The soldiers breathed in the modified system glitch vapor. Their advanced combat suits immediately started to power down. Red warning lights flashed across their tactical chest plates. The heavy rifles locked up tight and became useless metal. Panic replaced their strict military discipline very quickly. The commander tried to reboot his failing optical visor mask. His frantic hand movements yielded absolutely zero results. Military network connections severed by the active malware, they were now completely isolated from their command center. I spread my massive bat wings wide and leapt off the roof. The sudden rush of wind knocked several soldiers to the dirt. I landed right in the center of their broken defensive line. The concrete shattered violently under my heavy armored paws. A brave soldier tried to strike me with his combat knife. The thin steel blade snapped instantly against my thick hide. I swung my tail and sent his body crashing into a transport. The kinetic impact dented the heavy armor of the large truck. He slumped to the ground without making another single sound. Hostile unit neutralized with extreme physical prejudice. The remaining troops desperately tried to run away from me. Their heavy powered armor was now just dead useless weight. They could barely walk under the extreme physical burden. I did not bother chasing down these weak fleeing targets. My primary mission objectives were already fully completed. The client would be very pleased with this total destruction. I activated my internal communication link to report success. The encrypted channel opened with a sharp static buzzing hum. My handler confirmed the receipt of the combat telemetry data. A massive sum of digital credits transferred into my account. Payment received for the successful system wipe operation. I looked down at the former Holy Paladin one final time now. He was crawling through the dirt like a pathetic little worm. His glorious reputation was permanently erased from the world. I launched my heavy body straight up into the dark night sky. My powerful wings beat fiercely against the cold, rushing air. The ruined city square quickly faded away into the deep gloom. I soared higher until I breached the thick gray cloud cover. The bright moonlight reflected off my sharp mechanical stinger. I was the ultimate apex predator in this digital fantasy world. No level or magic could ever protect them from my viral venom. I adjusted my flight path toward the next high-value target. Another group of arrogant heroes needed a harsh reality check. I would gladly strip away their power for the right high price. New mercenary contract accepted with maximum priority status. The wind grew much colder as I reached the higher altitude. My internal sensors scanned the distant mountain range ahead. A massive fortified castle sat on the highest rocky peak. This fortress belonged to the legendary King of the North. He possessed a unique system skill that made him invincible. My client wanted that specific skill permanently deleted now. I folded my massive wings and began a steep tactical dive. The air resistance heated up my thick external armor plating. I slammed into the central courtyard with devastating force. The stone walls cracked under the massive kinetic shockwave. Dozens of elite royal guards rushed out from the main keep. They held long, glowing spears tipped with pure energy crystals. I did not give them any time to form a proper defensive line. My heavy tail swept through their ranks like a brutal scythe. The mechanical stinger injected the virus into 5 men at once. Multiple system glitches executed across the enemy squad. Their glowing energy spears instantly faded into dull gray wood. The affected guards dropped their useless weapons in pure shock. They lost all their advanced combat skills in a single moment. The remaining guards hesitated and backed away in sheer terror. The heavy wooden doors of the main keep suddenly burst open. The King of the North stepped out in his glowing mythic armor. He held a massive broadsword that pulsed with raw blue energy, his arrogant eyes locked onto my huge, dark mechanical form. He truly believed his invincible status would protect him here. I let out another deep mechanical roar that shook the castle, my armored tail prepared to deliver the final lethal injection. This royal fool was about to become a helpless, weak peasant. Maximum viral payload loaded into the primary strike weapon. I launched my heavy body forward to finish this lucrative job. The heavy blue broadsword swung toward my thick armored neck. I did not bother dodging his pathetic glowing magical strike. The sharp, heavy blade bounced harmlessly off my thick plating. A massive shockwave of blue energy rippled through the cold air. The arrogant king stumbled back from the severe kinetic recoil. His invincible status relied entirely on that heavy energy weapon. I whipped my mechanical tail around with extreme brutal precision. The sharp steel stinger easily bypassed his glowing mythic shield. My heavy weapon pierced the thick golden armor on his left side. I pumped the concentrated digital venom into his main data stream. Invincibility protocol corrupted by the external system glitch. The bright blue light in his heavy sword instantly faded away. His massive mythic armor suddenly became ordinary, heavy dead steel. The king collapsed onto the cracked stone under the extreme weight. He could not even lift his own arms from the cold hard ground now. Target level, reset to the absolute minimum baseline 0 state. I placed my heavy front paw directly onto his solid steel chest. The metal plate dented under my immense physical heavy pressure. His previous royal authority meant absolutely nothing to me here. The surviving royal guards dropped their weapons and ran away fast. They abandoned their fallen ruler without a single second thought. My primary target was now neutralized with absolute zero effort. I turned my attention toward the massive central crystal tower. This structure provided the backup network for the entire castle. My client demanded the total destruction of their local grid hub. I charged toward the heavy wooden doors of the main royal keep. My heavy armored skull smashed the barricade into tiny wood pieces. The dark interior of the castle felt incredibly cold and very damp. A massive glowing blue crystal floated in the center of the room. Thick energy cables connected the floor to the glowing power core. I raised my mechanical tail to deliver the final structural blow. The steel stinger slammed directly into the fragile glass surface. I released a massive payload of my destructive digital malware. Critical network failure detected in the main regional server. The bright blue light inside the crystal turned a sickly dark gray. Deep cracks formed along the smooth surface of the floating stone. The heavy structure shattered into thousands of tiny glass pieces. A powerful shockwave of dead energy washed over the entire room. The castle was now completely disconnected from the global system. I received another incoming transmission on my secure private line. My handler transferred the remaining half of my digital payment. Transaction fully verified and secured in the offshore account. I walked back out into the cold, ruined courtyard of the fortress. The defeated king was still lying motionless on the broken stones. He stared up at the dark night sky with completely empty dead eyes. I spread my massive bat wings to prepare for an immediate takeoff. A sudden bright flash of golden light illuminated the dark clouds. The local temperature dropped rapidly to a severe freezing point. I lowered my heavy body and dug my sharp claws into the hard rock. The global system did not like my unauthorized viral interference. A large portal of pure white energy opened directly above me now. A high-level system administrator descended from the glowing rift. The tall entity wore featureless white armor without a single seam. It did not carry any visible physical weapons in its empty hands. This was a pure digital construct designed to eliminate anomalies. Warning: hostile system moderator detected in the immediate area. The white entity pointed its right hand toward my heavy, thick head. A concentrated beam of deletion energy fired from its open palm. I pushed my massive legs off the ground with extreme kinetic force. The deadly white beam scorched the stone pavement where I just was. The solid rock simply ceased to exist in a perfectly smooth circle. I landed heavily on the upper wall of the ruined stone courtyard. This enemy could not be defeated with simple brute physical force. I needed to inject my virus directly into its main processing core. The entity turned its featureless head to track my rapid movements. It calculated my exact trajectory with perfect machine precision. 3 more deletion beams shot toward my current elevated position. I launched myself into the cold air and opened my huge dark wings. The heavy wind carried me over the incoming deadly energy strikes. The thick stone wall behind me vanished into empty digital nothing. I tucked my wings tight and initiated a rapid vertical dive bomb. My massive physical weight accelerated my fall toward the target. The administrator generated a thick hexagonal energy shield fast. I swung my mechanical tail forward with maximum kinetic momentum. The heavy steel stinger collided violently with the bright barrier. A massive shockwave of displaced air shattered the nearby windows. My heavy strike failed to pierce the pure code of the solid shield. The entity prepared to fire another deletion beam at point blank. I activated the thermal override function of my mechanical stinger. The sharp steel tip glowed with an intense, blinding white-hot fire. I drove the heated metal back into the exact same point of impact. The sudden temperature change destabilized the perfect energy grid. My stinger punched through the weakened digital defensive barrier. I drove the tip deep into the blank chest of the tall white entity. Direct connection established with the main system administrator, I unleashed the absolute maximum dose of my special glitch virus. Thick black veins of corrupted data spread across its white armor. The entity shook as the heavy malware rewrote its entire core code. Its deadly beam fizzled out into a harmless shower of white sparks. Administrator privileges successfully revoked by unknown malware. The glowing white armor cracked and dissolved into basic raw data. The physical avatar of the system collapsed onto the broken stones. It was now just a standard low-level mob without any special power. I pulled my heavy tail back and stepped away from the fallen enemy. The global system just lost its most powerful digital enforcer now. My unique mercenary services were about to become very high demand. I crushed the remaining data crystals under my thick, heavy paw now. The sharp, crunching sound echoed through the silent, dead courtyard. I launched myself back into the dark, freezing night sky very fast. My heavy wings carried me far away from the ruined royal fortress. The cold wind rushed past my thick fur as I gained more altitude. I checked my internal log for the next available high-value target. A massive player guild controlled the entire rich southern desert. They hoarded mythic resources and oppressed the normal weak users. A hidden client wanted their entire command structure fully erased. The bounty on this specific contract was absolutely astronomical. I adjusted my flight trajectory toward the distant hot sand region. New coordinates locked into the primary navigation system grid. The air temperature slowly began to rise as I crossed the mountain. The dark clouds parted to reveal a massive, endless yellow desert. A huge, floating city hovered directly above the center of the sand. Thousands of glowing defensive turrets lined the heavy metal walls. This guild spent billions of digital credits on their base defense. They believed their massive floating fortress was perfectly secure. I folded my wings and dropped into a steep, silent tactical dive. My dark armored body blended perfectly with the shadow of the city. The automated turrets tracked the empty sky above my rapid descent. I bypassed their primary sensor grid without triggering any alarms. Stealth infiltration protocol executed with absolute perfection. I landed softly on the thick metal roof of the main command center. The heavy steel plates made absolutely zero sound under my weight. I extended my sharp mechanical claws to grip the smooth metal roof. A large glass skylight provided a perfect view of the room below. The guildmaster sat at a massive, glowing holographic control desk. He wore legendary dark matter armor that absorbed all nearby light. 10 elite bodyguards stood in a tight defensive circle around him. They held heavy plasma rifles loaded with high-tier piercing shots. A frontal assault would be a massive waste of my physical energy. I needed to distribute my glitch virus through the main air vents. I located the primary ventilation shaft just a few short feet away. My heavy, armored tail sliced through the thick steel grate easily. I inserted my mechanical stinger deep into the cold, dark air shaft. Aerosol viral dispersion mode activated at maximum output level. A thick cloud of invisible digital nanobots flooded the air system. The powerful fans pushed the toxic malware directly into the room. I watched through the glass skylight as the gas filled the space. The 10 elite bodyguards breathed in the corrupted system data now. Their expensive heavy plasma rifles suddenly powered down to zero. The glowing energy indicators on their armor went completely dead. Multiple targets fully disconnected from the main system network. The guards collapsed to the floor under their immense dead weight. They were reduced to basic level 1 peasants with 0 base points. The guildmaster stood up from his chair in a state of total panic. His legendary dark armor protected him from the initial toxic gas. He desperately tapped the console to trigger the main base alarm. The system denied his request with a large flashing red error code. I smashed my heavy armored paws through the thick glass skylight. Thousands of sharp glass pieces rained down onto the floor below. I landed heavily on the glowing desk and crushed the main emitters. The guildmaster drew a pair of glowing purple energy daggers fast. He lunged at my thick armored chest with desperate, reckless speed. I simply swatted him away with a casual swing of my huge right paw. The kinetic force sent his body crashing into the solid metal wall. His legendary dark armor absorbed the physical damage perfectly. He laughed arrogantly and prepared to launch another rapid charge. I did not give him the chance to close the distance between us now. My mechanical tail shot forward like a heavy metallic dark harpoon. The sharp stinger found the tiny gap between his helmet and neck. I injected the concentrated system glitch virus deep into his body. Legendary armor set disconnected from the user profile database. The dark matter armor instantly lost its light-absorbing property. The heavy plates turned into ordinary, dull gray, useless, dead steel. The massive weight of the dead metal forced the guildmaster down. He crashed onto his knees and dropped his glowing purple daggers. The daggers flickered and vanished into thin air without a sound. Target level reset to the lowest possible base state permanently. The great leader of the southern desert was now a fully broken man. I turned my massive head to scan the rest of the silent dark room. The 10 elite bodyguards were still unconscious on the cold floor. My mercenary contract was successfully completed ahead of schedule. I activated my internal communication link to report the total wipe. My handler confirmed the receipt of the massive combat telemetry. Another huge sum of digital credits transferred to my safe account. Payment received for the successful guild command wipe operation. I looked down at the former guildmaster one final time right now. He was weeping like a pathetic child over his lost system power. His glorious reputation was permanently erased from the hot desert. I launched my heavy body straight up through the broken glass roof. My powerful wings beat fiercely against the hot, rushing desert air. The floating city quickly faded away into the bright yellow sky. I soared higher until I breached the thin white cloud cover above. The bright sunlight reflected off my sharp mechanical dark stinger. I was the ultimate apex predator in this digital fantasy realm now. No level or magic could protect them from my deadly toxic venom. I adjusted my flight path toward the next high-value target base. Another group of arrogant heroes needed a very harsh reality check. I would gladly strip away their power for the right high price tag. New mercenary contract accepted with maximum priority status now. The wind grew much colder as I reached the higher altitude level. My internal sensors scanned the distant ocean horizon right ahead. A massive underwater dome city sat on the deep, dark ocean floor. This fortress belonged to the legendary emperor of the deep sea. He possessed a unique system skill that made him totally immortal. My client wanted that specific skill permanently deleted right now. I folded my massive wings and began a steep tactical dive bomb. The air resistance heated up my thick external armor plating fast. I slammed into the ocean surface with absolutely devastating force. The massive kinetic shockwave created a huge, circular water crater. My heavy body sank rapidly toward the glowing underwater dome city. The freezing ocean water rushed past my dark, heavy armored face. Extreme hydrostatic pressure pushed against my thick lion hide. This deep aquatic environment gave the enemy a huge advantage. I activated the heavy internal thermal heaters inside my chest. Boiling bubbles formed around my massive mechanical tail joints. The cold depth could not slow down my lethal mercenary mission. The glowing energy dome of the underwater city grew much larger. Heavy automated defense torpedoes launched from the outer walls. They actually thought physical weapons could stop my mythic mass. I tucked my heavy bat wings tight against my thick armored ribs. The explosive projectiles detonated harmlessly against my armor. The kinetic shockwaves only accelerated my rapid downward speed. Incoming physical damage completely negated by mythic defense. My massive heavy paws slammed directly into the blue energy dome. The thick protective barrier shattered like cheap fragile glass. Their expensive city defense grid was absolutely pathetic to me. Millions of gallons of ocean water poured through the open breach. Emergency force fields quickly sealed the hole in the high roof. The trapped citizens screamed at the sudden violent water influx. I landed heavily on the smooth pearl pavement of the central plaza. This pristine aquatic paradise was about to become a dead ruin. A squad of elite ocean guards surrounded my massive dark form. They aimed glowing tridents at my thick mechanical scorpion tail. These weak fools did not understand the true nature of my venom. The captain fired a concentrated beam of high-pressure water. The heavy liquid strike bounced off my thick, solid chest plating. His strongest magical attack felt like a gentle rain shower. I swung my armored tail in a wide, destructive horizontal sweep. The sharp steel stinger sliced through their glowing blue armor. I delivered the digital malware into their main nervous systems. Multiple target skill trees permanently deleted from the grid. The bright light instantly vanished from their heavy tridents. The elite soldiers collapsed onto the wet, broken pearl pavement. They were now just ordinary weak men without any combat ability. I crushed their useless dead weapons beneath my heavy lion paws. The sound of snapping metal echoed across the silent square. My total dominance over this digital realm was an absolute fact. The massive doors of the central coral palace suddenly burst open. The Sea Emperor stepped out wearing his glowing mythic crown. His legendary immortality skill made him incredibly overconfident. He held a massive golden spear pulsing with raw ocean power. The water around him formed a violent defensive heavy vortex. This impressive visual display would not save his digital profile. I charged right through his swirling high-pressure water shield. Extreme kinetic force parted the heavy liquid barrier instantly. He relied entirely on his system skills instead of physical mass. The Emperor thrust his golden spear toward my dark, huge skull. I simply caught the sharp weapon between my thick mechanical jaws. His eyes showed the first real sign of genuine mortal panic now. I bit down hard and shattered the mythic weapon into tiny pieces. Golden energy exploded outward from the broken heavy metal shaft. He was completely defenseless against my incoming heavy strike. My long mechanical tail whipped over my wide, thick armored back. The sharp stinger pierced his glowing heavy coral chestplate. I injected the maximum possible dose of my deadly system glitch. Immortality protocol corrupted by the external viral malware. The bright aura faded from his expensive mythic royal crown. His massive stats crashed down to the absolute baseline zero. The legendary immortal ruler was now just a fragile mortal human. He fell to his knees and gasped for air in the damp cold room. Without his system skills, he could no longer breathe properly. My mercenary contract did not require me to save his weak life. Target profile completely disconnected from the main life grid. I activated my internal link to report the total mission success. The encrypted channel buzzed with a sharp static electrical hum. My handler was extremely pleased with this rapid target wipe. A massive sum of credits transferred into my hidden safe account. The payment notification flashed across my internal visual display. I was rapidly becoming the wealthiest mercenary in this game. I left the drowning former emperor on the broken white floor. The remaining city guards fled into the dark, narrow side streets. Nobody dared to challenge the absolute power of my glitch virus. I pushed my heavy legs off the ground with extreme kinetic force. My massive body launched straight up toward the sealed glass roof. I needed to exit this deep aquatic zone before the pressure fell. My thick armored skull smashed through the emergency force field. The freezing ocean water instantly surrounded my heavy dark form. I engaged my secondary propulsion thrusters to accelerate upward. Powerful mechanical jets pushed me through the dark deep water. A thick trail of white bubbles followed my rapid vertical ascent. I broke through the rough ocean surface into the cold night air. I spread my massive wet bat wings and took flight immediately. The heavy wind quickly dried the salt water from my thick fur. My next high-value target was loaded into the navigation grid. New mercenary contract accepted with maximum priority status. The target coordinates pointed toward the massive orbital station. This floating space fortress was located in the upper atmosphere. I would need to push my mechanical wings to their absolute limit. I angled my heavy body upward and engaged the main flight jets. The extreme acceleration pushed me deep into my thick armor. The thin air of the upper atmosphere began to freeze my shell. The massive orbital station finally appeared in my visual sensors. It was a giant ring of solid steel covered in heavy plasma guns. The Grand Master of the Tech Guild thought he was safe up here. Hundreds of automated targeting lasers locked onto my heavy body. Bright red beams painted my dark armor in the cold, empty space. They were about to learn that my virus infects machines as well. The heavy plasma cannons fired a massive barrage of blue energy. I did not attempt to dodge the incoming lethal destructive wave. My thick mythic armor was designed to absorb extreme heat damage. Thermal damage negated by the advanced external armor plating, the plasma blasts violently slammed into my massive heavy chest. The kinetic impact pushed me back a few inches in the thin air. I used the residual thermal energy to power up my own weapon. I swung my mechanical tail forward and fired a concentrated dart. The sharp steel projectile pierced the main central control hub. My digital malware instantly flooded their entire defense grid. Station defense network completely corrupted by external virus. The heavy plasma cannons immediately powered down and went dark. The automated targeting lasers vanished from my thick armor. Their billion credit defense system was disabled in 1 second. I crashed onto the main landing deck of the heavy steel station. The thick metal plates dented under my extreme physical mass now. The artificial gravity generators were still barely functioning. A large squad of mechanical combat droids marched onto the deck. They raised their heavy laser rifles with perfect machine logic. I loved destroying these mindless automated system puppets here. I deployed the aerosol dispersion module on my sharp steel tail. A thick cloud of toxic digital nanobots sprayed across the deck. The mechanical droids marched directly into the toxic malware. Multiple artificial intelligence cores permanently deleted now. The glowing red optical sensors on the droids instantly faded. Their heavy metal bodies collapsed into useless piles of scrap. They were completely disconnected from the main hive mind grid. I walked slowly through the massive piles of broken robot parts. The heavy steel doors of the inner command center slid open fast. The Grand Master of the Tech Guild stood there in his mech suit. His massive robotic armor bristled with heavy explosive rockets. The thick titanium plating looked incredibly durable and strong. He relied entirely on his mechanical enhancements for survival. He fired a massive barrage of heavy rockets directly at my face. I simply crossed my thick armored forearms to block the strike. The explosive kinetic force barely scratched my thick lion hide. I lunged forward with explosive speed and closed the gap fast. My massive heavy paws pinned his robotic suit to the metal wall. He tried to activate his emergency escape thrusters in panic. My mechanical tail whipped forward and pierced his chest plate. The sharp stinger injected the virus directly into his tech suit. I watched his expensive mechanical upgrades completely shut down. Advanced mechanical suit disconnected from the user interface. The glowing power core on his heavy chest instantly turned dark. The massive titanium suit became a heavy dead metal prison now. He was trapped inside his own useless heavy mechanical armor. I pulled my heavy tail back and let his heavy body fall down. The dead metal suit crashed onto the hard steel floor heavily. His legendary tech skills were completely erased from the game. Target level reset to the absolute minimum baseline 0 state. I activated my internal communication link to report the wipe. My handler confirmed the successful destruction of the tech base. Another massive sum of digital credits hit my secure account. I walked back out to the main landing deck of the space station. The cold, empty vacuum of space looked incredibly peaceful now. I was the absolute apex predator of this entire digital universe. I spread my massive bat wings and launched into the dark void. My internal thrusters pushed me back toward the distant planet. There were always more arrogant heroes waiting to be broken. A new notification flashed across my internal visual display. The administrators were placing a massive bounty on my head. They finally realized I was a genuine threat to their world. Global extermination order issued for the mythic anomaly beast. I let out a deep mechanical roar that vibrated through my armor. The sound was completely lost in the silent vacuum of deep space. I welcomed their pathetic attempts to delete my massive profile. A massive digital portal opened directly in my flight path. A colossal mechanical dragon emerged from the glowing white rift. The system administrators sent their ultimate digital beast now. The heavy metal dragon roared with a deafening electronic sound. A massive wave of pure deletion energy shot from its open jaws. This attack was designed to erase my code from the entire server. I folded my heavy wings and dropped into a rapid, evasive dive. The deadly white energy beam barely missed my thick armored back. I needed to get close enough to inject my heavy glitch malware. I fired my secondary thrusters to launch directly at the beast. My massive, heavy paws slammed into its thick titanium neck. The kinetic impact sent us both spinning through the cold air. The mechanical dragon tried to bite my head with its steel teeth. I wedged my thick, armored forearm straight into its massive jaws. Its extreme bite force could not crush my dense mythic plating. Extreme physical pressure resisted by heavy mythic armor. I swung my heavy mechanical tail around its thick metallic neck. The sharp steel stinger found a tiny gap in the armor plates. I pumped a massive lethal dose of my virus into its central core. Core logic processor corrupted by the external system glitch. The glowing red light in the eyes of the dragon instantly died. Its massive metal body suddenly went completely limp and dead. The ultimate system guardian was now just a falling scrap pile. I kicked off the dead machine with my massive thick back legs. The heavy metal dragon plummeted down toward the distant ocean. The system administrators had absolutely nothing left to stop me. I adjusted my flight path toward the main global system capital. The massive floating continent was heavily fortified with magic. I would inject my glitch virus directly into their central core. The atmospheric reentry heated my thick external armor plates. Bright orange flames surrounded my heavy descending dark body. I looked like a massive destructive meteor falling from the sky. The system capital deployed their strongest magic energy shield. A thick barrier of pure golden light covered the huge continent. They believed raw system power could stop my physical mass. I tucked my heavy wings tight and accelerated my downward dive. The extreme speed created a massive sonic boom in the cold air. I prepared my mechanical stinger for the ultimate system wipeout. Maximum viral payload loaded into the primary strike weapon now. My massive heavy body slammed directly into the golden barrier. The extreme kinetic shockwave shattered all the nearby clouds. The magical shield bent under my immense physical heavy pressure. I drove my heated mechanical stinger deep into the glowing light. The sharp steel tip pierced the perfect code of the defense grid. I unleashed the absolute maximum dose of my digital glitch virus. Critical system failure detected in the main global defense hub. The golden barrier shattered into millions of tiny light sparks. The massive floating continent was now completely exposed to me. I was about to rewrite the rules of this entire digital reality. I landed heavily in the center of the grand capital city square. The pristine white marble cracked violently under my huge weight. Thousands of high-level players stared at me in absolute terror. I raised my heavy armored tail high above my thick dark back. The sharp mechanical stinger dripped with highly toxic venom. Every single hero in this city was about to lose their rank. Area of effect. Viral transmission protocol fully engaged now. A thick black mist erupted from my heavy mechanical stinger. The toxic digital cloud expanded across the broken white marble. Thousands of arrogant heroes inhaled the corrupted data stream. Massive area of effect. Viral infection successfully deployed. Their glowing mythic weapons instantly lost all magical power. Heavy enchanted armor suddenly became useless, dead steel plates. The extreme weight forced the elite players down to their knees. multiple target levels reset to the absolute minimum baseline. Panic ripped through the massive crowd of former champions now. They desperately clawed at their heavy, useless metal plates. My viral payload erased their decades of hard digital grinding. I walked slowly through the massive sea of broken, weak humans. The heavy thud of my paws echoed across the silent stone square. A massive beam of hot fire struck my thick, heavy, dark shoulder. The extreme heat failed to penetrate my dense, mythic outer shell. I turned my massive head toward the source of the magical attack. The supreme archmage stood on the high balcony of the palace. He held a legendary staff, pulsing with raw, unstable red energy. This fool actually thought his magic could pierce my heavy armor. I pushed my massive back legs off the cracked white marble floor. My massive body launched directly toward the tall stone balcony. The archmage fired 3 explosive fireballs at my thick chest. The kinetic impact pushed me back slightly in the freezing air. I ignored the extreme thermal heat and continued my rapid ascent. My heavy front paws slammed into the fragile stone balcony rail. The entire structure collapsed under my immense physical weight. The supreme archmage fell backward onto the cold, hard floor. His legendary staff rolled away from his trembling, weak hands. I pinned his fragile chest down with my massive, heavy right paw. The sharp steel stinger hovered right above his terrified face. He begged for mercy and offered me millions of digital credits. My mercenary contract demanded the total deletion of his profile. I drove the heavy toxic stinger directly into his glowing chest. Supreme magic user completely disconnected from the main grid. The bright red aura instantly vanished from his legendary weapon. His massive mana pool drained away into the cold, empty void. The most powerful mage in the world was now a pathetic weakling. I crushed his useless wooden staff under my thick, heavy foot. The sharp snapping sound echoed through the silent royal chamber. A massive, heavy iron gate opened on the left side of the square. The Grand Beast Tamer rode into the square on a huge white wolf. He commanded a massive army of mutated digital monsters here. Hundreds of glowing magical beasts surrounded my heavy dark form. They bared their sharp fangs and growled with intense blind rage. The tamer cracked his glowing electric whip to order the strike. The entire pack of heavy monsters lunged at me from all sides. I did not bother to deploy my heavy wings for evasive flight. I slammed my massive front paws directly into the cracked stone. A massive kinetic shockwave through the front row of beasts' back. I swung my heavy mechanical tail in a wide horizontal sweep. The sharp steel stinger sliced through their glowing magic hides. I released a massive cloud of viral nanobots from my heavy tail. Beast Tamer control network completely severed by the virus. The glowing red collars on the mutated monsters shattered fast. The beasts lost all their massive magical system enhancements. They shrank down into ordinary weak domestic dogs and small cats. The terrified normal animals scattered into the broken streets. The Grand Beast Tamer sat alone on his ordinary small white dog. He dropped his useless dead electric whip onto the cold floor. I walked past his pathetic weak form without a single glance. I moved deeper into the massive royal palace without resistance. A squad of heavy artillery mages blocked the grand staircase. They carried massive magic cannons powered by glowing blue cores. These weapons were designed to destroy heavy siege towers fast. They fired a synchronized barrage of massive explosive spheres. I crossed my thick armored forearms to protect my heavy face. The massive magic explosions engulfed my entire heavy dark body. The kinetic force pushed me back 3 feet across the floor. Thick black smoke filled the massive grand hallway of the palace. They cheered loudly and celebrated their supposed grand victory. I stepped out of the thick smoke without a single scratch on me. Heavy magic artillery damage fully absorbed by mythic shell. Their arrogant cheers instantly turned into screams of terror. I lunged forward with explosive speed and closed the gap fast. My massive heavy paws crushed their expensive magic cannons. I whipped my sharp mechanical tail through their tight group. I injected the concentrated system glitch into their network. Artillery guild magic completely deleted from the database. Their glowing heavy armor instantly turned into cheap thin cloth. The massive mages collapsed under the extreme physical shock. They were now just ordinary weak scholars with zero combat skill. A massive heavy iron door burst open on the far side of the room. 50 elite royal guards marched into the chamber in perfect sync. They raised their heavy glowing halberds and formed a tight wall. Their combined defensive aura created a massive blue energy shield. They believed their synchronized magic could stop my physical mass. I lowered my heavy dark head and charged directly at their line. My thick armored skull slammed into the glowing blue magic barrier. The massive kinetic shockwave shattered the expensive glass windows. The heavy blue shield held strong against my initial physical strike. The guards pushed their heavy boots deep into the solid stone floor. I activated the thermal override function in my mechanical tail now. The sharp steel stinger glowed with an intense blinding white heat. I whipped my heavy tail forward and struck the center of the shield. The extreme temperature change destabilized their perfect magic grid. My sharp stinger punched a massive hole through the weakened barrier. I pumped a concentrated cloud of digital malware through the breach, Phalanx defensive formation completely corrupted by the glitch. The bright blue energy shield instantly shattered into tiny sparks. The toxic digital gas washed over the 50 elite royal guards now, their glowing heavy halberds suddenly powered down to absolute zero. The massive weight of their dead armor pulled them down to the floor. Multiple target levels reset to the lowest possible base state. The elite royal guard was completely neutralized in just 10 seconds. I walked over their heavy broken bodies without a single second thought. The Grand Paladin charged forward with his glowing golden shield. He swung a massive, heavy broadsword directly at my thick neck. I did not bother to dodge his incredibly slow physical attack. The sharp steel blade bounced harmlessly off my dense armor. The extreme kinetic recoil sent the heavy knight stumbling back. His absolute confidence shattered along with his glowing sword. I whipped my mechanical tail around with extreme brutal force. The heavy steel stinger pierced his thick golden magic shield. I injected the concentrated system glitch into his data core. Holy defensive aura, permanently corrupted by lethal malware. The bright golden light faded from his heavy thick metal armor. The massive weight of the dead steel forced him to the floor. He could no longer lift his own arms in this weak baseline state. My dominance over these arrogant players was absolute right now. I walked past the broken paladin and entered the main hallway. A sudden sharp pain registered on my thick, heavy armored back. The master assassin dropped from the high ceiling with twin daggers. His legendary blades managed to scratch my dense outer metal shell. He relied on extreme speed and stealth to defeat his massive targets. He bounced off my thick back and landed softly on the stone floor. The assassin instantly activated his supreme shadow cloak ability. His physical body vanished completely into the dark, cold shadows. He thought he could hide from my advanced internal thermal sensors. I tracked his glowing heat signature moving rapidly along the wall. I waited for him to launch his next desperate physical strike now. He leapt through the air and aimed his daggers at my dark eyes. I simply opened my massive heavy jaws and caught him in midair. My thick mechanical teeth clamped down hard on his leather armor. The extreme physical pressure crushed his ribs with a loud crunch. I swung my mechanical tail up and pierced his exposed lower back. I injected a massive lethal dose of my specialized glitch virus. Supreme Stealth Protocol permanently deleted from the network. His shadow cloak instantly dissolved into useless black smoke. The legendary assassin became completely visible in my heavy jaws. His massive agility stats dropped down to the baseline 0 state. I opened my mouth and let his broken, weak body fall to the floor. He could not even stand up on his own two shattered human legs. The central server core was located deep beneath this palace. My client paid a massive sum to destroy the entire continent. I needed to inject my venom directly into the planetary grid. I smashed my heavy armored skull through the thick marble floor. The solid stone shattered into thousands of tiny sharp fragments. I dropped down into the dark, cold underground maintenance tunnel. Thick, glowing energy cables lined the damp, heavy stone walls. They pulsed with the collected digital power of million users. I followed the massive data streams toward the central chamber. The air temperature increased fast as I approached the main core. A heavy steel blast door blocked my path to the primary server. I lowered my massive body and charged forward at maximum speed. My thick armored shoulders slammed into the solid metal barricade. The extreme kinetic force ripped the heavy door off its hinges. The massive metal plate crashed onto the cold concrete floor. I stepped into the blinding bright light of the main core room. A colossal floating crystal sphere dominated the entire space. Millions of data streams flowed into the glowing blue stone. The final system administrator materialized in front of me now. This entity took the physical form of a massive golden angel. It carried a huge flaming sword that radiated extreme heat. The administrator demanded my immediate surrender and deletion. I responded by unleashing a deafening heavy mechanical roar. The intense sound wave shattered the glass monitors on the wall. The golden angel swung its massive flaming sword at my head. I raised my thick armored right forearm to intercept the blow. The burning blade collided violently with my dense metal shell. A massive shower of bright orange sparks rained onto the floor. Extreme thermal damage successfully negated by heavy armor. I pushed the heavy flaming sword away with extreme kinetic force. The golden angel lost its perfect balance and stumbled back. I whipped my heavy mechanical tail forward with absolute speed. The sharp steel stinger punched right through its chest plate. I injected the absolute maximum payload of my digital virus. Final system administrator privileges permanently revoked now. The bright golden light instantly faded from the massive angel. Its flaming sword turned into a useless piece of heavy cold iron. The entity dissolved into a harmless cloud of basic raw data. I turned my full attention back toward the colossal crystal. This glowing sphere controlled the physics of the continent. My massive heavy paws gripped the smooth cold floor of the room. I launched my heavy dark body directly at the massive structure. My thick armored skull slammed into the center of the stone. Deep cracks instantly formed across the perfectly smooth glass. I wrapped my mechanical tail tightly around the massive core. I drove the sharp steel stinger deep into the central hub. I released every single drop of my concentrated system glitch. Planetary server core completely corrupted by external malware. The bright blue light inside the colossal crystal turned black. The massive floating continent suddenly lost all its magic lift. Gravity immediately reclaimed the massive heavy chunk of Earth. The entire capital city began to freefall toward the dark ocean. Extreme structural stress tore the massive royal palace apart. I activated my encrypted link to report the total target wipe. My anonymous client transferred the final massive bounty payment. Transaction verified and secured in the hidden offshore vault. I smashed my way back up through the collapsing stone ceiling. The cold, rushing wind hit my thick, dark fur with extreme force. The broken city crumbled around me as it plummeted downward. Millions of powerless former heroes screamed in absolute terror. They were completely trapped in this massive falling death trap. I spread my massive heavy bat wings and launched into the air. My powerful mechanical thrusters ignited with a blinding flash. I rapidly gained altitude and escaped the heavy gravity pull. The falling continent slammed into the ocean with massive force. A colossal kinetic shockwave displaced millions of tons of water. The global system was now completely erased from this planet. I hovered high above the massive destructive tsunami in the sky. My unique mercenary services were worth every single credit. I checked my internal navigation log for the next open contract. A parallel server cluster desperately needed a reality check. This new digital realm was ruled by a corrupt pantheon of gods. They hoarded all the mythic resources and oppressed the weak users. My anonymous client placed an absolute fortune on their total wipe. I adjusted my flight trajectory toward the glowing warp gate. Interdimensional travel protocol initiated with maximum priority. The cold vacuum of space welcomed my massive heavy armored body. I pushed my powerful mechanical thrusters to their absolute limit. The bright stars blurred into long white lines of pure light energy. I crossed the massive dimensional barrier with extreme kinetic force. A brand new digital universe opened up directly in front of me now. I was the ultimate apex predator across all known digital dimensions. No amount of magic or system levels could ever stop my heavy mass. My deadly system glitch virus would continue to spread forever. I prepared my sharp mechanical stinger for the next massive strike. The dimensional warp gate spit my heavy body into the new sky. A vast ocean of thick golden clouds stretched across the horizon. Massive floating marble temples defied all basic heavy gravity. This arrogant pantheon wasted massive resources on pure vanity. I folded my heavy bat wings and initiated a rapid, steep dive. The extreme atmospheric friction heated my dark metal armor. I aimed my heavy mass directly at the largest golden temple. A squad of elite winged guardians intercepted my rapid descent. They carried heavy glowing spears forged from pure holy energy. These divine system puppets lacked any real physical combat mass. The lead guardian threw his bright weapon at my heavy skull. I ignored the incoming strike and maintained my steep flight. The holy spear shattered against my thick, dense forehead plate. Divine energy damage completely negated by heavy mythic armor, I swung my massive mechanical tail through their tight formation. The sharp steel stinger pierced 3 glowing holy chest plates. I pumped a massive dose of my digital glitch into the network. Holy Flight Protocol permanently corrupted by external malware. Their glowing white wings instantly dissolved into useless ash. The heavy armor pulled their weak bodies toward the deep abyss. I watched them fall past me without a single trace of any pity. My massive heavy paws slammed into the pristine white stone roof. Extreme kinetic force completely shattered the divine structure. I crashed into the grand hall of the massive floating temple. Thick clouds of white stone dust filled the massive quiet room. A giant golden statue of the supreme god stood at the far end. I crushed the expensive stone floor under my heavy dark weight. The heavy bronze doors burst open with a massive loud crash now. The god of brutal war stepped into the ruined divine sanctuary. He wore thick ruby armor pulsing with massive raw system power. A heavy battle axe rested easily on his thick armored shoulder. His absolute arrogance blinded him to my extreme physical mass. He activated his legendary strength multiplier without delay. The digital aura around his massive body turned a bright red. He leaped across the massive hall with extreme explosive speed. The heavy metal axe swung directly toward my thick armored neck. I raised my massive right forearm to block the heavy strike now. The sharp, heavy blade collided with my dense, thick metal shell. A massive kinetic shockwave cracked the remaining stone pillars. Extreme physical impact successfully absorbed by mythic plating. The god of war stared at his totally undamaged ultimate weapon. He completely failed to understand my absolute defensive mass. I pushed his heavy axe away with a sudden violent forward push. My massive left paw slammed directly into his glowing ruby chest. Extreme kinetic force threw him backward across the massive hall. He crashed heavily into the giant golden statue of his master. I did not give him any time to recover his lost combat balance. I charged forward and pinned his massive body against the stone. My heavy mechanical tail whipped over my thick, dark armored back. The sharp steel stinger punched through his thick ruby armor. I injected a massive lethal dose of my specialized glitch virus, divine strength multiplier, permanently deleted from the system. The bright red aura instantly vanished from his heavy, weak form. His massive combat stats crashed down to the baseline 0 state. The legendary god of war was now just a pathetic, fragile mortal. He dropped his massive heavy axe onto the broken stone floor. He could no longer lift the extreme weight of his own armor now. I left him trapped beneath the heavy metal plates in defeat now. My internal bounty tracker updated with a massive new credit sum. This entire arrogant pantheon would soon share his pathetic fate. I walked out of the ruined temple into the bright sunlight now. A bridge of solid glowing light connected the massive islands. The central divine palace sat on the highest peak of the realm. I needed to inject my venom directly into their main power core. I stepped onto the bright energy bridge with my heavy metal paws. The magic structure groaned under my extreme physical dense mass. An army of golden mechanical angels blocked my forward path now. They raised heavy glowing shields and formed a tight solid wall. The goddess of defense commanded this elite heavy legion now. She floated above them inside a sphere of pure blue energy now. Her ultimate barrier skill had never been broken by any strike. I lowered my heavy armored head and charged directly at the line. My massive heavy paws cracked the glowing light bridge below me. The angels braced their heavy shields for the massive impact now. I did not slow down my extreme momentum for a single second here. My thick, dense skull slammed into the center of their solid wall. The massive kinetic shockwave shattered their perfect formation. Heavy golden shields flew into the air like cheap dry leaves now. I trampled their broken metal bodies under my massive heavy paws. The goddess of defense looked down at me with absolute panic now. She channeled all her mana into the heavy blue energy sphere now. The magic barrier grew incredibly thick and radiated intense heat. I pushed my heavy back legs off the cracked glowing light bridge. My massive body launched straight up toward her floating shield. I swung my heavy tail with maximum destructive kinetic force now. The sharp steel stinger struck the center of the blue barrier. I activated the thermal override to break her perfect magic code. The extreme heat shift created a tiny fracture in the magic wall. I pumped a concentrated stream of digital malware into the crack. Ultimate defensive barrier completely corrupted by the glitch. The massive blue sphere shattered into millions of tiny sparks. The goddess fell screaming toward the broken magic light bridge. I landed heavily on my forepaws right beside her weak human body. She desperately tried to cast a basic escape teleport spell now. My sharp mechanical stinger pierced her glowing silver armor now. I injected the maximum lethal dose of my specialized system virus. Target mana pool permanently reset to the absolute baseline. The bright divine aura completely vanished from her heavy armor. She could no longer access any of her legendary defensive skills. I crushed her useless magic wand beneath my heavy, thick, dark paw. The remaining golden angels lost their central command link now. They stood frozen on the bridge like useless dead metal statues. I walked past their silent forms without a single second thought. The massive gates of the Supreme Divine Palace loomed right ahead. These huge doors were forged from pure solid cosmic titanium now. The god of lightning stood guard on the high, heavy stone balcony. He held a heavy spear of pure concentrated electrical energy now. The dark storm clouds above him pulsed with massive digital power. He fired a massive bolt of blue lightning directly at my chest. I did not bother to deploy my heavy bat wings for evasive flight. The extreme electrical voltage struck my dense, heavy outer armor. A blinding flash of white light consumed my massive dark form. The kinetic shockwave scorched the smooth white stone floor below. Extreme elemental damage successfully grounded by mythic plating. I stepped out of the thick smoke without a single scratch on me. The lightning god stared at my massive body in absolute shock now. He relied entirely on his massive system damage output to survive. I opened my heavy jaws and unleashed a deafening mechanical roar. The extreme sound wave shattered the expensive glass windows above. I pushed my heavy back legs off the ground with extreme force. My huge, dark body launched directly toward his high stone balcony. He desperately threw his crackling heavy spear at my armored face. I caught the pure energy weapon between my heavy mechanical teeth. I bit down hard and completely shattered the legendary weapon now. Blue electrical sparks exploded harmlessly against my metal face. My massive front paws slammed into the fragile stone balcony rail. The entire structure collapsed under my immense physical mass now. The god of lightning fell backward onto the cold, hard stone floor. I pinned his fragile chest down with my massive, heavy right paw. My mechanical tail whipped forward with absolute blinding speed. The sharp steel stinger pierced his glowing golden shoulder plate. I injected the maximum payload of my lethal digital system virus. Elemental Mastery Protocol permanently deleted from the database. The dark storm clouds above the massive palace instantly vanished. The bright blue electricity completely faded from his weak eyes. His massive agility stats crashed down to the absolute zero state. He could not even generate a single tiny spark of static energy. I lifted my heavy paw and let his broken body roll on the floor. The massive cosmic titanium doors were the only remaining obstacle. I walked slowly toward the incredibly dense, heavy metal barricade. The supreme ruler of this pantheon hid inside his huge throne room. He believed his absolute divine authority could protect his life. I activated the heavy internal thermal heaters inside my chest now. Boiling heat radiated from my massive mechanical tail joints now. I swung my heavy armored tail in a wide, destructive physical sweep. The glowing hot steel stinger slammed into the thick metal doors. The extreme kinetic impact created a massive dent in the thick door. I deployed the corrosive acid spray from my sharp mechanical tip. The toxic digital chemical rapidly melted the heavy cosmic metal. Indestructible physical barrier completely compromised by malware. I pushed my massive heavy shoulders against the weakened doors. The heavy hinges snapped loudly under my extreme physical mass now. The massive doors crashed onto the pristine white stone floor now. I stepped into the center of the supreme divine throne room now. The high god sat on a massive chair made of pure solid light now. He held a glowing orb that controlled this entire digital universe. Thousands of elite guards surrounded my massive dark heavy form. They aimed their heavy glowing weapons at my thick mechanical tail. I did not feel a single drop of fear in my cold mechanical heart. My anonymous client paid for the total absolute wipe of this realm. I raised my heavy armored tail high above my thick, wide, dark back. The sharp steel stinger opened to reveal the massive viral payload. I unleashed a massive cloud of highly toxic digital nanobots now. Area of effect system glitch successfully deployed in the core. The dark mist rapidly expanded across the massive throne room now. Every single elite guard dropped their useless heavy weapons now. Their glowing magic armor suddenly became heavy dead steel plates. The extreme physical weight forced them down to their weak knees. Multiple target levels reset to the absolute minimum baseline. The supreme high god watched his entire massive army collapse now. He desperately tried to activate the emergency wipe protocol now. I lunged forward with explosive speed and closed the huge gap fast. My massive heavy paws slammed into his floating chair of light. The kinetic impact completely shattered the divine magic structure. The glowing golden orb rolled out of his trembling weak hands now. I pinned his fragile chest to the floor with my massive heavy paw. My sharp mechanical stinger hovered right above his terrified face. He begged for mercy and offered me absolute control over the realm. My mercenary contract did not allow for any peaceful surrender. I drove the heavy toxic stinger directly into his glowing chest. Supreme administrator privileges completely revoked by the virus. The bright golden aura instantly vanished from his heavy crown. His massive mana pool drained away into the cold, empty dark void. The most powerful being in this universe was now a weak mortal. I crushed the glowing golden orb under my thick, heavy armored paw. The sharp snapping sound echoed through the silent, massive room. The entire floating island suddenly lost all its magic system lift. Gravity immediately reclaimed the massive, heavy chunk of Earth now. The divine palace began to freefall toward the dark, endless abyss. I activated my encrypted link to report the total mission success. My anonymous client transferred the final massive bounty payment. Transaction verified and secured in the hidden offshore vault. I smashed my way back up through the collapsing heavy ceiling. The cold, rushing wind hit my thick, dark fur with extreme force. I spread my massive bat wings and launched into the dark, open sky. My powerful mechanical thrusters ignited with a blinding flash now. I rapidly gained altitude and escaped the extreme gravity pull now. I was the absolute apex predator of this entire digital universe. No amount of system levels could ever stop my extreme heavy mass. I prepared my sharp mechanical stinger for the next massive target. My internal navigation system locked onto the next digital realm. A massive neon portal ripped through the cold, dark cosmic void. I pushed my heavy mechanical thrusters to their absolute limit. Extreme kinetic force launched my dark body into the new grid. Interdimensional firewall breached with massive physical force. A sprawling high-tech metropolis stretched across the horizon. Massive glowing skyscrapers pierced the thick toxic yellow smog. This entire digital sector was ruled by corrupt system hackers. They stole ultimate admin codes to enslave the weaker players. My anonymous client demanded the total deletion of their city. I folded my heavy bat wings and initiated a rapid steep dive. Extreme atmospheric friction heated my thick dense metal armor. I aimed my massive heavy mass directly at the central data tower. A squad of elite cybernetic knights intercepted my rapid descent. They activated their stolen gravity boots to fly into the sky. Heavy plasma blades ignited in their heavily augmented hands. The lead knight swung his glowing sword at my thick, dark neck. I ignored the incoming strike and maintained my steep flight. The superheated plasma bounced harmlessly off my mythic shell. Extreme thermal damage completely negated by heavy, dark armor. I swung my massive mechanical tail through their tight formation. The sharp steel stinger pierced 3 glowing heavy chest plates. I pumped a massive dose of my digital glitch into their network. Stolen cyber enhancements permanently corrupted by the malware. Their heavy gravity boots suddenly powered down to absolute zero. The extreme weight of their dead metal limbs pulled them down. I watched them fall past me without a single trace of any pity. My massive heavy paws slammed into the reinforced glass roof now. Extreme kinetic force completely shattered the massive structure. I crashed heavily into the grand lobby of the central data tower. Thick clouds of broken glass filled the massive quiet room now. I crushed the expensive marble floor under my heavy dark weight. A massive heavy steel blast door blocked the main security hall. I lowered my heavy armored head and charged directly at the wall. My thick, dense skull slammed into the center of the solid metal. Extreme kinetic shockwave ripped the heavy door off its hinges. The heavy metal plate crashed onto the cold, hard concrete floor. I stepped into the bright neon light of the main security hub. 50 elite security drones hovered in the center of the room. They aimed their heavy particle cannons at my thick, dark chest. These machines were programmed to delete any unauthorized users. They fired a synchronized barrage of massive explosive energy. I crossed my heavy armored forearms to protect my massive face. The extreme energy explosions engulfed my entire heavy, dark body. The kinetic force pushed me back slightly across the cold floor. Thick black smoke filled the massive grand hallway of the tower. Heavy particle cannon damage fully absorbed by mythic shell. I stepped out of the thick smoke without a single scratch on me. I lunged forward with explosive speed and closed the gap fast. My massive heavy paws crushed their expensive metal drone frames. I whipped my sharp mechanical tail through their tight formation. I injected the concentrated system glitch into their network. Security drone network completely deleted from the database. The glowing blue power cores instantly turned cold and dark. The massive metal machines collapsed under the physical gravity. They were now just ordinary piles of useless heavy scrap metal. I walked over their heavy broken frames without a second thought. The Grand Cyber Warden charged forward with his glowing shield. He swung a massive heavy kinetic hammer directly at my dark neck. I did not bother to dodge his incredibly slow physical attack. The heavy steel hammer bounced harmlessly off my dense armor. The extreme kinetic recoil sent the heavy cyborg stumbling back. His absolute confidence shattered along with his glowing weapon. I whipped my mechanical tail around with extreme brutal force. The heavy steel stinger pierced his thick glowing energy shield. I injected the concentrated system glitch into his data core. Kinetic defensive aura, permanently corrupted by lethal malware. The bright neon light faded from his heavy thick metal armor. The massive weight of the dead steel forced him to the floor. He could no longer lift his own arms in this weak baseline state. My dominance over these arrogant hackers was absolute right now. I walked past the broken warden and entered the main hallway. A sudden sharp pain registered on my thick, heavy armored back. The master stealth hacker dropped from the high metal ceiling. His legendary daggers managed to scratch my dense outer shell. He bounced off my thick back and landed softly on the cold floor. The hacker instantly activated his supreme optical camouflage. His physical body vanished completely into the dark, cold shadows. He thought he could hide from my advanced internal heat sensors. I tracked his glowing heat signature moving rapidly on the wall. I waited for him to launch his next desperate physical strike. He leaped through the air and aimed his daggers at my dark eyes. I simply opened my massive heavy jaws and caught him in midair. My thick mechanical teeth clamped down hard on his weak armor. The extreme physical pressure crushed his ribs with a loud snap. I swung my mechanical tail up and pierced his exposed lower back. I injected a massive lethal dose of my specialized glitch virus. Supreme Stealth Protocol permanently deleted from the network. His optical camouflage instantly dissolved into useless static. The legendary hacker became completely visible in my heavy jaws. His massive agility stats dropped down to the baseline 0. I opened my mouth and let his broken, weak body fall to the floor. He could not even stand up on his own 2 shattered human legs. The central core processor was located deep inside this spire. My client paid a massive sum to destroy this entire sector. I needed to inject my venom directly into the main city grid. I smashed my heavy armored skull through the thick metal floor. The solid steel shattered into thousands of tiny sharp fragments. I dropped down into the dark cold underground maintenance tunnel. Thick, glowing optical cables lined the damp, heavy concrete walls. They pulsed with the collected digital power of 1 million users. I followed the massive data streams toward the central chamber. The air temperature increased fast as I approached the main core. A heavy steel blast door blocked my path to the primary server. I lowered my massive body and charged forward at maximum speed. My thick armored shoulder slammed into the solid metal barricade. The extreme kinetic force ripped the heavy door off its hinges. The massive metal plate crashed onto the cold concrete floor. I stepped into the blinding bright light of the main core room. A colossal floating quantum computer dominated the entire space. Millions of data streams flowed into the glowing blue processor. The Supreme Hacker King materialized in front of me right now. This entity took the physical form of a massive digital demon. It carried a huge glowing scythe that radiated extreme heat. The Hacker King demanded my immediate surrender and deletion. I responded by unleashing a deafening, heavy mechanical roar. The intense sound wave shattered the glass monitors on the wall. The digital demon swung its massive glowing scythe at my head. I raised my thick, armored right forearm to intercept the blow. The burning blade collided violently with my dense metal shell. A massive shower of bright orange sparks rained onto the floor. Extreme thermal damage successfully negated by heavy armor. I pushed the heavy glowing scythe away with extreme force. The digital demon lost its perfect balance and stumbled back. I whipped my heavy mechanical tail forward with absolute speed. The sharp steel stinger punched right through its chest plate. I injected the absolute maximum payload of my digital virus. Supreme admin privileges completely revoked by the malware. The bright neon light instantly faded from the massive demon. Its glowing scythe turned into a useless piece of cold iron. The entity dissolved into a harmless cloud of basic raw data. I turned my full attention back toward the colossal computer. This glowing machine controlled the physics of the entire city. My massive heavy paws gripped the smooth cold floor of the room. I launched my heavy dark body directly at the massive structure. My thick armored skull slammed into the center of the machine. Deep cracks instantly formed across the perfectly smooth glass. I wrapped my mechanical tail tightly around the massive core. I drove the sharp steel stinger deep into the central data hub. I released every single drop of my concentrated system glitch. City server core completely corrupted by external malware. The bright blue light inside the massive quantum core died. The massive high-tech city suddenly lost all its anti-gravity. Gravity immediately reclaimed the massive heavy chunks of metal. The entire cyber metropolis began to freefall toward the ground. Extreme structural stress tore the massive data towers apart. I activated my encrypted link to report the total target wipe. My anonymous client transferred the final massive bounty payment. Transaction verified and secured in the hidden offshore vault. I smashed my way back up through the collapsing steel ceiling. The cold, rushing wind hit my thick, dark fur with extreme force. The broken city crumbled around me as it plummeted downward. Millions of powerless former hackers screamed in absolute terror. They were completely trapped in this massive falling death trap. I spread my massive heavy bat wings and launched into the air. My powerful mechanical thrusters ignited with a blinding flash. I rapidly gained altitude and escaped the heavy gravity pull. The falling metropolis slammed into the earth with massive force. A colossal kinetic shockwave displaced millions of tons of dirt. The global system was now completely erased from this planet. I hovered high above the massive destructive dust cloud now. My unique mercenary services were worth every single credit. I checked my internal navigation log for the next open contract. A parallel server cluster desperately needed a reality check. This new digital realm was ruled by a corrupt dragon alliance. They hoarded all the mythic resources and oppressed the weak. My anonymous client placed a massive fortune on their total wipe. I adjusted my flight trajectory toward the glowing warp gate. Interdimensional travel protocol initiated with top priority. The cold vacuum of space welcomed my massive, heavy armored body. I pushed my powerful mechanical thrusters to their maximum limit. The bright stars blurred into long white lines of pure light. I crossed the massive dimensional barrier with extreme force. A brand new digital universe opened up directly in front of me. I was the ultimate apex predator across all digital dimensions. No amount of magic or system levels could ever stop my mass. My deadly system glitch virus would continue to spread forever. I prepared my sharp mechanical stinger for the next huge strike.
The following video and all of its content are entirely fictional and are the original copyrighted creation of the author. My story is created solely for TTK narrative purposes within a fictional universe. There is no way encourage violence or dangerous behavior and should not be attempted in real life. Please note that all characters depicted in this work are entirely fictional and are strictly portrayed as being 18 years of age or older. This content is created solely for entertainment purposes and it's not intended to offend, malign, incite violence, or cause harm to any individual, group, or entity. This channel goes beyond entertainment. It is designed to deliver immense value, revealing profound meanings and deep insights for stories that make you think and feel on a whole new level.